Welcome into PrepAquatics.com, and I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylarPrep. Back for a blowout state preview here. Apologies for the lack of content the last several weeks. I was very sick there for a while, and then because I was sick, I really had to dedicate full time to work there for a stretch. I will be on the call this weekend, and let's get into it. We're basically going to kind of combine a couple features that I normally do into this one big blowout, and so I'll try to not make it too long. So I'm going to talk about what the heats look like for each event, and then the prediction, and then we'll talk about the predicted standings at the end. So medley relay, the 3 circle seeded heats. You have New Trier in a heat with St. Charles North as I think you would say the second most interesting team. Problem right now for St. Charles North is no Filipovic on the medley. If Filipovic's not on the medley, I can't see them contending for top 6 in that relay. I think that would probably be their best relay if he was on it, but they're going for broke for the 3 relays. I think there's an argument to be made to have pulled Kane Kriz from the fly lineup-wise, put him on 3 relays, and have Filipovic come off one of the free relays, probably the 200, because Kriz coming out of the 400, you wouldn't want Filipovic not to be on that one. But as it stands, no Filipovic means New Trier should pretty much run away from this heat. Highland Park's the 2 seed. We'll see if Highland Park can hold on to their taper or get faster. I'm skeptical. They're obviously not a program that's used to performing well at the state meet, and so if they do it, hats off to them. But they're probably the other lingering potential scoring relay here. You would think in the second heat you have Stevenson, and in the middle of the pool, Cary Grove and Maine South are the next 2 seeds. I don't expect that much from them. You do have Evanston and Mundelein in that middle circle. Those should both be scoring relays. I think Mundelein's a top 6 contender, Evanston bottom. But the rest of this heat, it's a toss-up whether you'd think that they would score or not. And then the final circle is by far the best. You have Hinsdale and LT in the middle. Again, this is a rematch. All 3 circle seeded heats have a rematch in the middle of the pool. Lanes 4 and 5 were head-to-head at the same exact sectional. New Trier and Highland Park, Stevenson and Cary Grove, Hinsdale, LT. Also in this heat, you have Loyola, you have OPRF, and Wabansie Valley. I think that's 5-year 12 scoring relays. So out of this heat, at least. And so again, Wabansie, Deshpande was not suited in the backstroke leg here. Hinsdale is going to switch out, I think, half of their medley, potentially. We don't know what the splits were, but they had the freshman Bay in the breaststroke, who was clearly fully shaved, as he went 56 in the breaststroke, and his previous best was barely under a minute. And again, so we just don't know what Bertulis went in the backstroke to know if it's worth him coming off, but Sam Daw did beat him in the 100 back and went out faster than him. And so I think Hinsdale's relay could be a big mover. LT obviously has just become a sprint factory in recent years and constantly have strong relays. Loyola loaded him. I thought they may bag the medley and have Kelly swim the IM back and Andrew 50-100. They did not do that. All 3 are loaded, makes them a top 6 threat. And then Oak Park, again, I think they're going to have 3 pretty good relays, led by Louis and Rotatori. To go to the actual prediction for the medley, I've got a top 6 of Stevenson, Hinsdale Central, LT, New Trier, Loyola, and Mundelein. And then a bottom 6 of Wabansie, OPRF, St. Charles North, Evanston, Glenbrook South, Highland Park. Those last couple spots are really up for grabs, 11 and 12. GBS is just again, the team I have the most faith in out of the rest. We know they're coming off a couple years where they were uber talented. That's not the case anymore, but there's usually a lingering pride, at least, when a program goes on a run like that. 200 free. The first circle, again, and this, I guess this is kind of the case in most events after taking a year off when we didn't have a state meet, but not what you would call the big names in this heat, even though you do have two from New Trier. Wilson and Music. Camden Taylor from Rockford East is the top seed here. Whether or not he can hang on, again, we haven't seen much out of the Rockford area in about 20 years, going back to Andy Miner and Brad Boswell, who were in high school with me. And so if Taylor can get the job done and score, that's going to be a really great performance for someone out of that Rockford area. Algren from St. Charles East, we'll see what he has left. He was posting good times in season, but he's pretty much at or better than his lifetime best already, which you would think would limit the upside for anybody. In the middle circle, you have Nolan Miller from Champaign Central. I think he's a name everyone's probably going to walk away from the state meet knowing if they don't. And then Mike Flynn. Flynn's the number 2 seed in this event. Flynn, to me, is the heavy favorite to win the 2 and the 5. I think you have a group of kids that could be senior swimmer of the year if something happens to Filipovic. And Flynn's probably number 1 or 2 on that list, along with Griffin O'Leary, because Flynn should go really strong times. He's been 36 in the 200, which until just like the last 5 years would have been like the second fastest time ever after Reed Malone. Reed Malone went, broke 37, the first guy about almost 10 years ago now. But you still don't see a lot of guys go under 37, and he might even go 35. He's been 36 previously, and he's just head and shoulders above everybody else. No one else has been better than 38. The final heat is really the best. You have Aiden Dunn from Nequa, Ben Louie, OPRF, Aaron Martin from Evanston, and Tyson Tucci from Normal Community. Tucci is not going to look impressive if you look at the site sheet, what he went at sectionals, but obviously he's not in a tough sectional. He didn't have to do anything special. He should be one of the bigger droppers you'll see this weekend in the 2 and the 5, because he's got a lot of room to improve. He's been 140 and sub 430, and so I expect a nice drop from him this weekend in both of those. And I think he's someone whose name you would have heard if we had a state meet last year. My top 6 is Flynn, Miller, Martin, Louie, Dunn, Tucci, and then a bottom 6 of Camden Taylor, Ward Wilson, Noah Priest from Hisdale Central, still has some room to improve, and then Joey Countryman Rivas, Lucas Simic from Niles West, and Carson Faley from Byron round out my top 12. And one thing I've noticed as I've studied this is there's a lot of points individually getting eaten up by kids from teams that have no shot at making a trophy run, and it's really going to drive the scores down at this state meet if that does hold, because the star power on the top teams just isn't really there. If you think about the biggest stars in this meet, you'd probably have to go down at least out of the top 5 to get to someone that's a legit trophy contender. And that's pretty unusual for what we've had in Illinois over the years. In the IM, in that first circle, you have Filipovic. He should run away and hide with this. He's a 146. He's far and away the best IMer in the state. Filipovic's far and away the best swimmer in the state. He'd be the favorite in about half the individual races, the 50, the 100, potentially even the 500. I wouldn't want to see him in the 500. If I was Flynn, he'd be the one guy I'd be scared of, because if he could hang with me for 450 yards, I know he can out-sprint me. He'd be close to the favorite in the backstroke, and we have good backstrokers in this meet, and he probably would not be the favorite in the breaststroke, but again, the kid is just uber talented. There's a reason he's going to Texas, and again, he should not be close to touched. It's really going to be about, can he motivate himself with the times, and could he potentially break a couple state records? Also in this heat, I really like Jaden Gamia. He was at the Mattia sectional, obviously. He represents Mattia. No tech suit on this kid. So I think he's got a lot of room still to drop. I think we need to look out for Caden Hardy from Evanston out of this heat, and also the two Hinsdale guys, Jeffrey Howe and Nate Harris. Both have a decent amount of time still to drop to get to their best times. In that middle circle, Colin Zhang from Stevenson, Brady Johnson from West Chicago, I think are probably the two guys to look out for, along with Tim Hayes, as the droppers in this heat. But it's certainly not as strong. That first circle is by far the strongest in the IM. And then in the final circle, you got Camden Swigart, U-High, and Jaden Highline from Fremd in the middle lanes. Highline is, based on his past results, way over his head, being the number one seed in this race, and so it'll be an adventure, I think, to see how he does. But that's definitely the worst of the three circles, and I think there might be one wild card top six swim, out of that group, but it's hard for me to see any of those guys other than Swigart. Swigart's legit from U-High, but it's hard for me to see anybody else make a move, and the IM's not very strong. And so, Highline's going to score pretty easily, I think, but it's more because there's just not a ton of top-end upside on the field. If someone rises up and goes a best time, it's well above what they've gone before, then they're going to beat a guy like Highline, who I think is going to go slower. It's just how much slower. And so he is sixth in my top six. Not in the circle seeded heats, Jake Regenwetter from Urbana. This guy's a 150 flat, and again, kind of like we talked about some of these other kids, no challenge at the sectional for him, just cruise control, and he's someone that's gonna be the number one seed after he swims for sure, and then we'll see where he falls after the circles. Filipovic, Swigart, Gamia, Regenwetter, Zhang, and Heinlein's my top six. My bottom six is Dominic Mazurek from Maine South. Again, even though I think he's going to go slower. Jeffrey Howe, Hinsdale, Nate Harris, Hinsdale, Caden Hardy, Evanston, Tim Hayes, Prospect, Brady Johnson, West Chicago is my top 12. Moving to the 50. Again, with a lot of, there's only about two races that look really loaded in this meet. The 50 is one of them. I think we could see the entire top six break 21, which doesn't happen every year. But I could definitely see it this year, and potentially a 20 point in the bottom. It starts out in the middle lanes of that first circle. Connor Groya, Andrew Gilbert. I think these are two of your 20 points from York and Hinsdale, respectively. Not at the same sectional, but from the same conference. They're familiar. There should be a level of comfort there. In that middle circle, we've got Lachlan Andrew, He's been 20 point. And, obviously, Tadic went 20 point. Again, a lot of these guys that are currently the top seeds, it's going to be about how well they can hang on to their time as opposed to how much time they're going to drop. And, that's obviously the hardest thing, especially when we don't have much of a history with these guys, because we don't know who can hang on to their times best, because most of these guys have never been close to a scoring swim before. But Gallagher from Hinsdale South is also in that middle circle. He's a 20 point. He's also the runaway favorite in the breaststroke in this meet. And so again, I think Andrew and Gallagher are top 6 finishers. Tadic is a bottom 6 finisher. And then again, in that final heat in 4 and 5, you have Payne Smith from Washington and Jacob Draz from Lake Park. Another 2 guys who you've really never heard from before. I like actually Cohan from Stevenson the best out of lane 7 in that heat. And I like Thomas Rotatori in lane 9 out of this heat as well to make a big move. And the 50, obviously, you can hang on to your time better than in any other event, but we've seen guys fall apart over the years. We saw Parker Nolan not perform well coming off a big sectional when he was a freshman at Ignatius. We saw basically every year of his high school career. I say we. I should say I, because a lot of you probably haven't been paying attention to high school swimming that long. Kid named Massimo Chavez, who went and had a nice career at Ohio State. Whitney Young tapered him for sectionals every year. He got slower every year, and really, it cost him a state title, at least one. And a couple of those years when he was younger, it cost him top 6. And so it's just, you never want to put yourself in a position where you're looking back at the top 6 and go, if I just went my sectional time, I'd have been in there, but because I didn't, I'm 8th. There's just nothing worse than that for anybody, if you ask me. If you're just about going your best time and that's all you care about, then that's what club swimming's for. High school's about getting a medal at the state meet if you're good enough to do it. Diving, just so the scores come out right. Harrison Nolan, kid was like 30 points off the state record 2 years ago. I think he's a slam dunk favorite out of Riverside Brookfield. Jack White Stevenson, Ari Lesh Evanston, Bruno Carrillo from Oak Forest. Number 1 sectional score, but again, I just hate the way diving is. I wish they would go to more of a college zone setup, because you just get some sectionals that inflate scores incredibly, especially if there's just one really good diver and a bunch of everyone else is terrible, which I'm guessing there was not many good divers at that Oak Forest sectional, and he was just so much better. By default, you're giving the kid 9s because big diving coaches don't give out scores below like 4.5. Unless it's just a terrible dive. And so there's got to be separation. And so if you're giving out 4.5s to mediocrity, then you give 9s to borderline excellence. And so, we'll see. He's not someone that I've seen dive before. It's just, it's hard to think that this kid is as good as Harrison Nolan. If he is, then he's probably gonna go down as one of the greatest divers Illinois had, because that's what Nolan is. Matthew Yuan, Glenbrook North, and Noam Kolbach, Highland Park rounds out my top 6. In the bottom, Danny Silverstein, Stevenson, Lance Kurzowinski, Schaumburg, Connor Furlong, Hinsdale Central, Jack Hammerton, Rich Woods, Wyatt Wellahan, New Trier, and Holden Wheeler, Buffalo Grove. And then we move on to the butterfly here. It's another one where, again, I think Filipovic wins pretty easily, but there are some good top-end flyers in the state, but there is a pretty significant drop-off after the top couple guys. Looking at the circles, you've got O'Leary in the lane 5 of the first heat. He's definitely one of the 48s. I think Kyle from Hinsdale is going to be top 6 because there's some guys like Ben Louie who bailed on the fly to go the 500 and opened up some spots. I think he's going to be top 6. He's been 49 before. Ben Castro, Kerry Grove, he should definitely score. Nikola Tadic, we talked about him in the 50. He's definitely someone that you can see scoring. In that middle circle, Josh Hong is the number 2 seed in the meet, and I think the favorite to be the second place finisher behind Filipovic. Aiden Music's in this heat from New Trier. He goes 49 in sectionals. New Trier had the best sectional in the state, bar none. And they were missing guys who, on paper, they should have had. And, I feel bad for Coach Runkle and those kids that aren't able to be in the lineup because New Trier really could have been, I think, a more complete, much thstronger team if they had the guys they were missing. Things like that happen: injuries, illness, other circumstances. But I mean, they're still. If you look at New Trier and Hinsdale, those are the 2 teams that I think are going to be duking it out next year. And usually it's not something I pay attention to until after the current state meet. But when you're looking at the qualifiers, you just see so many freshmen, sophomore, juniors next to names for them that it just really stood out. In the final circle, we've got Tim Hayes from Prospect, who should score. We've got Filipovic, who's the favorite. We've got Andrew Lynn, who's another one of our 48s. And you got Kevin Obachi from Highland Park, who's a potential scorer. I think that's the best heat. Obviously, having Filipovic, who's a potential state record holder. Again, this kid's been 47 low. State record's 46-7. So, at the very least, I think we should see a 46 out of him. We saw how many records fell in this pool at the girls' meet. We shouldn't see that many records here, but it gives you the idea that we should potentially have a shot at a couple records from Filipovic's swim, potentially the backstroke, and so whether that happens or not, we'll see. And it's going to take us a couple years, I think, to really determine how big of an impact this FMC pool is having on the actual times that people are posting, and potentially on the taper trends. Are people still able to improve from their sectional time because the pool's so much better, even though they tapered and shaved in sectionals? That's another trend worth keeping an eye on as these next couple of years go by. So the top 12, Filipovic, Song, Lynn, O'Leary, Howe, Castro is my top 6. And then at the bottom I have Hayes, Music, Tadic, Obachi, Nolan Dietz from Pontiac, and Kane Kriz from St. Charles North. But again, we go from 47 at the top to at the bottom. We're talking about kids that have are just under 51 lifetime best, or just went their lifetime best and are probably going to go slower. And so there's a big separation there between really the top 4 and everybody else. Those guys should all be 48s for sure. And then it's going to be about, a 49 could definitely end up in the bottom, but I think if you go 49 low, you're in the top for sure in the fly this year. which the Fly's had some years where it's been just utterly brutal, and like the entire bottom six is 49s. I don't foresee that happening unless several kids just go crazy. The 100, I think this is going to be one of our better showdowns head-to-head individually of the whole weekend. And that's between Conor Groya of York and Omar Fathala of Mundelein. In the first circle, you really don't have anyone that is a true proven commodity. I like Johnny Farber probably the best out of everyone, and he's in lane 9. Farber from Stevenson had a rough sectional. He missed the cut in the 200 free, which that floored me when I saw that. I was waiting to see him miss the cut in the 100 free. I applaud the kid for bouncing back, because the sectionals is such an emotional day, and that just had to be demoralizing to start his meet that way. And so the kid's good enough to be top 6, and so hopefully it's not an injury illness type situation that lingered that might prevent him from performing his at his best. But he basically, he's got a lottery ticket now, and so he's got another chance to show what he can do. And if he's right, I don't even think it's a lottery ticket. I think it's a sure thing. I think he's going to be in the top 6. Jack Burke from Plainfield North is someone to watch there, and also Countryman from Rebus, Joey Countryman. But that's definitely, in my opinion, the weakest of the 3 circles. Middle circle, again, I think it could definitely be won in lane 9. That's Aaron Martin from Evanston. Evanston historically lets it all hang out at the sectional. Aaron Martin did not post times that were anywhere near his best at the sectional. And so I've got really high hopes for him this weekend. And I think he's got a really nice shot to be double top 6. Again, we talked about Farber and then Martin, both lane 9 guys. So that'd be pretty funny to see 2 heats won by lane 9. But Camden Taylor from Rockford East is in 5. Jack Wanless from LT is in 6. In that heat, those guys are both good bets to score. Excuse me. And so one of them could win that heat. I would say whoever wins that heat should be top 6. Second, probably, if you're third, you're going to be in the bottom, because the last heat has some heavy hitters. Starting with Groya and Fathala, as we mentioned. Groya's in lane 5, Fathala's in 3, and then you have Arnav Dashpande in 7. I think all 3 of these guys should be top 6. And so that's why we're talking about 3 top 6 spots for the first 2 heats, 3 top 6 spots just for the last heat. And that's why I said you really do not want to be third in that middle circle. And I think in that first circle, you probably need to be first. Just things to look for. Obviously, it's all about the time. If someone goes, if 2 guys go 44, they're both going to be in the top 6. We're not going to have 7 guys go 44. I just don't see anybody going 44 except for Groya and Fathala. So my actual top 12 is Fathala, Groya, Farber, Martin, Deshpande, Jack Burke, Plainfield North. Bottom 6 is Countryman, Wanless, Taylor, George Wang from Mattia, Jacob Drazen from Lake Park, and Domenico Schluter from South Elgin. Again, at the bottom here, it's going to get dicey, I think. I think you're going to have guys that are going slower, and potentially, someone can get up there and snipe a spot if they've got a drop left. 500, I think, I mean, the five, this is about the weakest we've seen the 500 in quite a while. We've had some years in the last 10, quite a few, where it was loaded, going back to the Thompson Malone showdowns and the Grumhouses and the Spencer Walkers and the Colton Paulsons, and because I mean we're talking about guys that weren't state champions in those years would come back and be the top contender with Mike Flynn. Flynn's been 426. Tucci and Miller, Tyson Tucci and Nolan Miller have both been under 430, and that's it. Nobody else has broken 30, which means this is going to be a pretty weak top six. In comparison to what we've had in the last decade. In the first circle, Aiden Dunn's the top seed. I think he's a good bet for top six. You've also got Josh Fujimoto from Normal Community in 4. And then you got 2 Hinsdale Central guys, Braxton Bokos in 3, Nate Harris in 2. I think both those guys are good bets to score. And so the talent's definitely spread out more evenly amongst the heats in the 500 than in any other individual race. But you definitely don't have, in my opinion, any state champion contenders in that first heat. They start in the middle heat, and it starts in lane 1 with Tyson Tucci. Again, Tucci's one of the sub 430s I mentioned. Benjamin Louis from Oak Park is in this heat also. He is the biggest wild card in this heat. I thought he was going to go the fly. He's a 49 flyer. He switches to the 500. He win his lifetime best in sectionals, but we really don't know what his upside is. And I'm interested to see what his race strategy is, because if you look at the splits, he was head-to-head with Flynn at the sectional, and it looked like he got lost in the middle of the race. And that's usually the sign, because it's not like he shut it down, because he came back hard at the end. So, to me, that's a sign of someone that doesn't have enough race experience. And so, it's going to be fascinating to me how he splits his race on Friday. And, you know, is he going to be able to see Tucci? I think there's a chance, a pretty good chance, that they'll be far enough ahead of everybody else that he will be able to see Tucci. And so maybe that'll give him an opportunity to pace somebody and try to out-sprint him at the end. And get a feel for it, and we'll see what the time is. It should be under 4:30 if he beats Tucci. But if Tucci's able to wear him down, you know, the last part of that race could get ugly. I really don't like seeing, I mean, everyone's going to go faster on the last 50 because it's everything you got at that point, but I don't like seeing like a 3-second drop from 50 to 50. To me, that means you have too much gas in the tank. And so that would have been better off spread out throughout the race. And because you could be out of the race with that 50 to go, and then your sprints for nothing. I also do like Graham Wilson to score out of that heat. And then the final circle, we've got Nolan Miller from Champaign. Flynn's in this heat. Ward Wilson is in this heat. Will Turk from Chatham Glenwood is in this heat. I like all these guys, and I'm not ruling out Sid Oja from Lake Forest and Carson Faley from Byron. I think there's the most potential scorers in this heat, but that doesn't mean that the majority of the scorers will come out of this heat, because like Sid Oja posted by far his best time. Again, he's going to be hanging on for dear life to his taper, I think. Flynn should win this heat easily, and because this is a huge advantage for him, in my opinion, because as long as he wins the heat, he's going to get in. He's going to make the top 6. But this is where the race experience does help, because you can go a bad time because you're so far ahead, and mentally you shut it down. But if you've done enough 500 frees, which we know, I mean, this is Flynn's signature event, 200, 500. We know he has, and he should be fine swimming by himself. Now, I'd be a lot more worried about him if the 500 had any depth at all. But I mean, the kid's going to break 30, even if he doesn't go his best time on Friday. And if you break 30, you're not getting bottom. You're not in this meet. 200 relay. I think the free relays are, especially the last one, are going to be the most competitive. But I would still say the 200 relay, to me, looks like the weakest relay in the meet. And part of that is because, obviously, not everybody has loaded the 200 relay, but also it doesn't seem, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where what's driving down total team scores is all these star individuals that swim for, like Mike Flynn, swim for non-contenders. And so you're getting a lot of big-time splits for relays that the third and fourth guy, for example, are so bad that it doesn't matter. Like Lim and Regenwater for Urbana University, we're talking about a 56 breaststroker and then a 48 flyer backstroker. So either the front half or the middle 100 in your medley is going to be right there with the best 100 yards in the whole state, and they're not even going to sniff scoring. So it's really driving, I think, overall relay performance down, because the top teams don't have those stars like they do in most years. Anyway, to talk about the circles, I think we've got a good race here. In the middle of the first circle is Loyola and LT. Evanston is in 7 here. They're definitely going to score, in my opinion. Those are the 3 locks to score. I think Loyola and LT are both going to be top, and Evanston's probably bottom. Glenbrook South is in there. I can potentially see them do something. West Chicago, maybe. In the second circle, I think this is the weakest, and Hinsdale Central should run away and hide from this heat. Like the medley, Hinsdale Central should be pulling off their slowest leg. Honestly, I think they've had guys that went on the relay go faster than what their slowest leg went at the sectional. So I don't know who it's going to be. He would have to come out of the 500, but I've seen Nate Harris swim that relay and be under 22 several times throughout the year. So we'll see who it ends up being and how much faster it ends up making them. But Highland Park is the number 1 seed in this heat. I think they get slower. It's not that they're not going to score. I just can't see them really making a run at Hinsdale Central. Not if Hinsdale Central performs well. And then you have Glenbrook South, Plainfield North, who are potential scoring relays. Nequa is in this heat as well. Again, Nequa's 400 relay much better than their 200 relay. In the final circle, we kind of see that example again. Like in lane 1, we have York. We know Groy is there. He's my 50 free champ. The 3 guys he's with, they're just not going to be good enough to score. But Mundeleин's in this heat, St. Charles North is in this heat, Oak Park is in this heat, Stevenson's in this heat, and New Trier's in this heat. Those relays all should score. And frankly, in the bigger scheme of things, all those relays should be trying to get top 6. Because obviously Mundelein went for 3 relays. New Trier and Stevenson just have the depth to go for 3 relays anyway. St. Charles North is obviously trying to backdoor a trophy as well. But Stevenson, is a lead pipe lock. Everybody else, New Trier's, and it's kind of like we mentioned with Nikwa. New Trier's 400 relay is the number 1 seed in the meet. New Trier's 200 relay isn't one of the top 6 seeds in the meet. They're not 50 guys. So, again, New Trier could catch a bottom here. Mundelein, St. Charles North, Oak Park, any of them could catch a bottom here. And so I don't know that it's going to be exceptionally fast time-wise, but I do think it could be exceptionally close amongst a lot of these relays, trying to sneak into top 6 to kind of secure their spot in the trophy race. My actual predicted top 12: Stevenson, Loyola, Hinsdale, LT, Oak Park, New Trier. And in the bottom, Highland Park, Mundelein, St. Charles North, Evanston, West Chicago, Glenbrook North. Again, you've got Mundelein, St. Charles North in the bottom. We'll have to see how much they can improve. Their sectional times, not as good as I would have expected. And so it's really, again, we talked about the supporting cast. We know what Filipovic and Fathala can do. It's really going to be about everybody else that's on the relays with them, how high they can climb in the top 12. Backstroke, again, I think this one is another race where we're talking about a couple guys up at the top, separated from everybody else, and it starts with Griffin O'Leary and Arnav Deshpande. These guys are both been 48 before. Andrew Lynn is in this mix as well. We mentioned he's been 48 before. I just don't. I'm always skeptical of kids from teams that the team's never been good before, and they personally have never scored at the state meet before. And are they really going to put their best foot forward in their first trip? It's not easy. You're almost like a freshman in that case. But anyway, the last circle is loaded. It's got both Deshpande and O'Leary, everyone else is just going to be battling for third. In the first circle, you have Brady Johnson from West Chicago, Jack Burke from Plainfield North, Lubomir Popovic, Maine South, who I think all can score. Also, Sam Daw from Hinsdale Central. Still has room to improve. He's in lane 8. So you got 4 potential scorers there. Again, maybe no top 6ers in that heat. It's by far the weakest circle, and so I would say Johnson is the favorite to win that heat, and therefore probably going to end up top 6 because he's most likely going to be the number 1 seed with 2 heats to go. But I would say whoever wins that first circle is probably going to be top 6. If you're second, probably not. In the second circle, Michael Wyrocki from Stevenson's in 1. I could see him scoring. Andy Kelly and Andrew Lynn are in the middle, kind of like we have O'Leary and Deshpande. Both those guys are top 6 locks, in my opinion. Colin Bade from LT is in this heat. I can definitely see him scoring. And then the final heat, we talked about Deshpande and O'Leary. O'Leary swims so fast all year. I've been saying it since the start of the season. If he doesn't break the state record, it's going to be a disappointment because he's been going 48s all season. State record's only 47. If you can't drop 2 seconds in 100, then you weren't working very hard. You should be tired. It's not. This isn't college. If you treat it like a college season, it's so short. It usually gets you beat. And if O'Leary doesn't show up with his good stuff, Deshpande's good enough to beat him. Quinn Collins, LT, is also in this heat. Dominic Mazurek, Main South, are kind of the scoring contenders that I'm looking at in the backstroke. And then as for the actual prediction for the back, I'm giving it to O'Leary still. I mean, he's been the favorite basically since everyone touched the wall at state 2 years ago, and everyone else graduated except him. Deshpande, Kelly, Lynn, Brady Johnson, Josh Song is my top 6. Jack Burke, Popovic, Daw, Collins, Wyrocki, and Colin Bade is my bottom 6. Again, I'm fascinated to see the fact that O'Leary and Deshpande are head-to-head in prelims. I think is going to be amazing to watch, because the mental that could play going into Saturday, I think it's going to speak volumes. Breaststroke, again, I think this is a one-horse race. This is going to be one of the more lopsided events. Gallagher shows up at his best. He's been 54. No one else has been 55. 2 seconds is a lifetime at 100. In that first circle, I like Jaden Gamia the best. He's not the number 1 seed. Jackson Hogue is, but Gamia, again, was not suited at the sectional. Camden Swigart, U-High is also in this heat. Well, again, Gallagher's in this heat, but I guess I kind of taking Gallagher out. He's almost in a separate event. I do like Gamia to make top 6 for sure. In the second circle, again, you got 2 complete wild cards in the middle of the pool. Josh Bay, Hinsdale Central freshman, 56.4. Heck of a time for a freshman, but freshmen usually get a dose of reality at the state meet, especially freshmen who just went their best time by 3 seconds. If the kid hangs on and scores, good for him. I won't be surprised at all if he goes 58-1. Because that's the growing pains of the state meet. Not many freshmen score at the state meet. Luke Maurer didn't score at the state meet, and he's a state record holder. So it happens, but not that often. And Bray Sanchez from Marist, not a freshman, but complete wild card of a program that he swims for. I couldn't tell you if anyone from Marist has ever scored before. And so that'll be fascinating as well. But Colin Zhang from Stevenson, Caden Hardy from Evanston, both those guys are going to score. Zhang's probably going to be in the bigs. Kane Kriz from St. Charles North is also going to score. And so if those 2 guys in the middle don't come with their good stuff, it's going to look ugly, because the 3 guys flanking them are all going to get second swims. In the final circle, again, a lot of unknowns here, but there are 2 guys that I really like for top 6, and it's Regenwetter from Urbana and Aiden Foley from Lyons Township. Everyone else, I think it could, again, there could be one wild card top 6 finisher in this heat. Newlands, I do like to score. Stempian's the number 1 seed from Lake Park, but you have to think he's going to get slower at this juncture. And that's why I talked about the pool in the beginning, because if the pool is going to overcome the fact that everyone tapered at sectionals and their times are going to get faster, that's really going to change things over the years, where I think everyone's just going to taper for sectionals. Then we almost don't even have to have the state meet, because everyone's going to get faster, and just whatever the seedings are after the sectional is probably what it's going to stay. Because before, there were big groups of people that were actually moving to a slower pool from sectionals to state. Like in the Naperville sectional, obviously they built new pools on the North Shore in recent years. Deerfield, Mundelein, those pools were all faster than Evanston and New Trier. And so when you had that kind of dynamic, it added a different layer to the state meet and a different mental game to the state meet. Now everyone should be moving to the fastest pool in the state, regardless of what anyone else wants to claim. My actual top 12 in the breaststroke: Gallagher, Zhang, Gamia, Foley, Regenwetter, Jackson, Hogue. In the bottom, Kane Kriz, Caden Hardy, Philip Stempian, Newlands, Swigart, Will Turk. Again, I think there's going to be a 56 in the bottom, so there's a lot of depth there. I mean, I don't think a 56 has ever been in the bottom, but the top end isn't very strong. So I think it's one of those where this is a weak second place race, but a strong sixth place race. And then finally, looking at the 400 relay, in the first circle, you got Mundelein and LT in the middle, and then Evanston and St. Charles North above them. Those four relays should all score. I wouldn't count out Fenwick getting a big split from Flynn and sneaking in as well. So that's 5 relays right there. That looks like potentially, just in terms of the number of potential scores, not necessarily all top 6, like the deepest circle. The next circle has 2 clear top 6 relays, maybe the top 2 relays. Stevenson in 5, Loyola in 4. I can see Nequa scoring. They're below Stevenson in 6. And you know, anyone, you have Highland Park in here, West Chicago, who are all kind of wild cards, Plainfield North. But Loyola and Stevenson and Nequa, I think, are all locks to score. And again, Stevenson and Loyola have to be locks for everyone for top 6. And then the final heat, you have Oak Park, New Trier, Hinsdale Central in the middle lanes. You have Wabanzi in 8. I think all 4 of those relays are definite scoring relays. I think Glenbrook North, who's in this heat, could score. And again, Oak Park, New Trier, Hinsdale, Wabanzi, all, I think, look at themselves as top 6 potential relays. And so we probably have more top 6 potential in this heat than any other, but they're not all locks to be top 6. I think, you know, New Trier and Hinsdale should be locks. Oak Park and Wabanzi, definitely not locks, but not impossible to see them making top 6 in this meet. But I do think this is the best relay of the bunch, the 400, because again, I just don't think anyone's got that. There's just not that many good 50 guys running around these top teams. I think everyone's teams as a whole are better in the 100 than they are in the 50. I mean, for a while there, Hinsdale and LT were just, and there's Naperville Central thrown in there a couple times, U-High. It's like, if you're not going at least a 23, you know, you need not apply. I mean, maybe we'll see some 23s. But I mean, I don't think that there's any lock to there being 23s this weekend. Just because there's just so much uncertainty with all these teams. The actual picks here for the 4 bills: Loyola, Stevenson, New Trier, Hinsdale Central, Mundelein, LT are my top 6. Oak Park, St. Charles North, Wabanzi, Evanston, Nequa, Fenwick is my bottom 6. And then the top 10, it's going to be tight for 10th I think, because you got Urbana, that if their two guys show up, they could sneak in top 10 with no relays. And so some of these teams that maybe aren't going to have top 6 relays or don't have the slam bang individual stars are gonna have to fight them for top 10. I've got Urbana 11th, 1 point behind Wabanzi. 45 for Wabanzi, 44 for Urbana. Evanston 50, Oak Park 63 I have 8th. St. Charles North 66, I have 7th. Mundelein 67, I have 6th. And so tight race there. Then it's a jump up, and this is what I would call the trophy contender, the true trophy contender class. LT, I have 5th at 84. I have New Trier and Loyola at 90, tying for 3rd. Hinsdale 126, Stevenson 185. Stevenson running away and hiding with this meet, as we've thought all year. I think the difference really between Hinsdale and then New Trier and Loyola, the difference with Loyola is they just have a lot more individuals. And for New Trier, I'm just concerned if New Trier's kids all go faster, then I think they're second. But my concern is almost their entire lineup went lifetime bests. Ward Wilson did not. A couple others did not. Whereas a lot less of the Hinsdale kids, who you're expecting to be the contributors this weekend, went lifetime bests. And so that's how I kind of averaged things out, kind of across the board, not just with those two teams. But if someone went their lifetime best, to me, they're less likely to go faster. When you're at this level, rarely do you improve that much, where going your lifetime best during one part of the year is going to be followed up by another second drop. You might go tenths faster, which again, tenths faster would probably be good enough in a lot of the cases for New Trier. And so again, this goes back to the pool and everything else we've talked about. Their upside is definitely bigger than Loyola's because they have a lot more potential individual scores. Loyola has 2 kids who, if you were doing a draft, you'd probably, for this state meet, you might pick Andy Kelly and Lachlan Andrew over everybody on New Trier and Hinsdale's roster. You probably would. But ultimately, the depth of New Trier and Hinsdale are way better than Loyola's. And so it's going to, but again, Loyola's points are guaranteed, in my opinion. Whereas there's definitely some swims in here for Hinsdale and New Trier that they can easily not score at all. If they don't have a good performance. Whereas even with mediocre performances, Lachlan Andrew and Andy Kelly are gonna probably be top 6. It's more of a guarantee for Andy Kelly in the backstroke because the 50 is a lot tougher. But so again, top 10 in top to bottom order now: Stevenson, Hinsdale, New Trier, Loyola, LT, Mundelein, St. Charles North, Oak Park, Evanston, and Wabanzi, with Urbana just 1 point behind Wabanzi for 10th. We will see a lot of you out there at FMC starting tomorrow. Hopefully, it's a good one. I hope that there's this much of a race for a trophy. Again, LT only 6 points out of that 3rd place tie, based on my predictions. So it's always great when a match race shapes up for a trophy, because that's really what it's all about at this time of year. As always, you can email me, SkylandPrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylandPrep. And next time, we'll be recapping the state meet here at PrepAquatics.com.